Hey, good morning. No, it's not. It's late Wednesday night. Welcome to Voices from the Dirt Road. It's Wednesday night, and the reason why it's Wednesday night because we just finished an outstanding show where we were talking about data centers, rules of engagement. And this Friday morning, I want to make sure that you get the same opportunity that everybody else got a chance to see. But I want you to be able to see it this morning here at 7 o'clock. The cool thing is roughly about 1,500 people actually watched us today. So with that being said, enjoy the show, share it with your friends, and please go and talk to your neighbors about data centers because as you know, I've actually said, let's take a 1-year pause, give the state and the federal government time enough to put some guardrails in place so that our city and our county commissioners can have some better guidance as they're making decisions for us here at the local level. Enjoy.
A data center houses rows of computers and equipment for storing, processing, and transmitting data.
Data center market is experiencing unprecedented growth. There are more than 150 of them in Metro Atlanta, and more are coming online.
Contract agreement could double the revenue the utility system hands over to the city.
This is a game changer.
The technology that helps power our modern world, but it takes a lot of resources to get it done.
Water is a finite resource. They are hugely resource intensive.
Constant protests over energy and water use.
Right now, Georgia exempts data center equipment from state sales tax.
Concern is dealing with the impact on our residents as it relates to the utilities. Does that cost get passed on to our residents?
My main concern is the environment.
Hey, everybody. Hi. Glad to be able to see you again. As y'all guys know, we said a few weeks ago that myself and my other fellow colleagues that are running for Congress, we were going to make sure that we do a complete series of what is going on in Georgia and really throughout the United States when it comes to these data centers. And I'm proud to say that this is our second show where we focus in on the rules of engagement when it comes to data centers, the debate. The good thing tonight, we have two outstanding guests with us. But on top of that, I'm so proud to say that I have my fellow colleagues that are running for Congress. And I know in November, we're going to win this thing. But before I even say that and let them introduce yourselves, I want to say this. As people start coming onto the platforms across the board, please like and share. Tell your friends to jump on because we have a lot of great information for you tonight. And when I say a lot of great information, this information here is not leaning one side or the other. This information is strictly for you, your community, your town, your city, your whatever, so that you can have the ammunition to make the decision on, do you need a data center in your community or not? And I think all y'all guys know where I stand. I put it out the other day that as far as Sean Harris, I'm asking for a 1-year pause to give the state and the federal government the time to put some guardrails out there to stop whatever we're doing. Because right now, I believe the city and the county are not prepared to make some of the decisions they're making. And I don't want anybody to get over on it. So with that, I want to welcome my fellow candidates in. But on top of that, I look forward to working with these two when we get to Washington, D.C. So, Chris, introduce yourself and tell everybody about you.
Thanks, Sean. I look forward to working with you, too. And I'm excited to be here again for our second episode. I'm Chris Harden. I am the CD11 candidate. And today I was at the No Kings protest with the Indivisible Cobb and East Cobb and Cobb County Democrats. It was a good turnout. If you can tell by my face, I was out there for a little while. And, I was telling everybody that, and I actually believe this, that the reason why it was being held in Wheeler, Cobb County and Marietta is the epicenter for where Georgia's turning blue. And they could have chosen any high school in Cobb County, but they chose Wheeler because it's in my county. And for the first time in 30 years, we are looking at a possible flip to blue. And I know that he endorsed my opponent last week, and then this week he's showing up in my district. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Chris, you're exactly right, man. You are doing awesome over there, and you're gonna do a great job. And I am confident that all of us, Georgia is already turning blue, but Northern Georgia, where we all live and work hard every day, is definitely also going to be blue. All right, the greatest candidate known to all of Georgia. How you doing? Tell us everything about you.
All right, I'm Maura Keller. I'm running for CD3. And like the two of you, I mean, we run fast and furious every single day. Last night, I was at another data center meeting. And again, we watch and see all the games that are played. You know, everyone shows up, and I think a lot of times they wait for people not to show up, so then they can start pushing some of their agenda through. But one of the things, you know, about the data centers in my district, I got 15 counties. So I'm on the road all the time, and we're looking at almost 31. Mm-hmm. And so when we look at the people in the district, you know, they need to be listened to. You're screwing up the rural way of life. You know, like we are not, like you say, against the data centers, but there's a place for them, but they won't build them there because they would have to build the infrastructure, which would cost them more money when it's easier to build them in your own backyard. So, you know, listening to the folks, it's all about the environment. It's about what's going to happen to my health, what's going to happen just to my way of life. And the other thing is the energy costs. Mm-hmm. So right now we already know how, I don't even use the word affordability anymore. Everything is about survivability. And, you know, having their energy costs go up, you know, they can't afford it.
Yeah, you know, well, you're exactly right. I was just in Paulding County, Dallas, Georgia. I think it was last week at one of the data center county commissioners meetings, and I was just so proud just to be in the room and listen to everybody that was speaking their voice. Because if you looked at the agenda didn't say anything about data centers. It was only when you got to the very bottom where people said, no, I don't care what you was talking about. I'm going to stand up and tell you that I don't want a data center in my backyard. And that's what's happening in Paulding County. I just was with them on Saturday. I was headed to a veterans event in Atlanta. And as I was driving down the road there, coming through Hiram, they were standing on the sidewalk, and I had to pull over and jump out and go over there and protest with them, because at the end of the day, this issue that we're talking about right now is not a Democrat, independent, or Republican issue. This is everybody's issue, because across the board, like everybody's already said, this will affect not only you today, but for generations. So where I stand, and I think everybody else stands, we just need to get it right. And I would just say it plain. I don't think any of us want to have a data center in your backyard or your front yard. So at the end of the day, I'm so excited that we do this as candidates up here in Northwest Georgia, but we're doing it in a way that we're not putting a spin on it. We just letting the information go out and go from there. And tonight we actually have two outstanding guests that are actually experts. I want to bring them onto the stage so everybody can meet them and kind of go from there. So bring our guests up, and Louise, I'm gonna let you get started and let people know everything about you, and kind of go from there. Hey, team behind the scenes, can y'all kind of take the three of us off so people can actually just see our guests? Because I want them to make sure that they can see everybody, know who.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Louise Palmer. I'm the Executive Director of the Environmental Equity Information Institute, or E2I2, and I'm going to hand it over to my colleague here to introduce himself.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks again for having us. I am Femi Adesanya. I'm the founder of the Environmental Equity Information Institute, which I started 35 years ago when I was teaching at Hampton University.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Femi. And I'm going to kick us off here with a really quick overview of what we do, but also some of the core issues on data centers, and then hand it over to Dr. Femi to wrap up. So E2I2 is a nonpartisan 501c3 environmental justice nonprofit based in Atlanta, Georgia. As Dr. Femi just said, for 30 years, we've now been helping communities understand and use environmental, climate, and health data to take local action. So let's dive right into the basics about data centers. I won't be able to cover everything in 5 minutes, but we'll follow up with any questions afterwards. So when people hear data center, they often picture a warehouse full of computers, but what they might not see are the systems needed to keep those computers running around the clock. So we're talking about water, electricity, power plants, transmission lines, roads, and sewer systems. And data centers can require major expansion of these shared systems, and the effects can reach far beyond the actual facility itself. So first, let's take a quick look at water. Data centers use water to keep thousands of servers from overheating. A large hyperscale facility can use between 1 and 5 million gallons of water a day, and that's roughly the amount used by a small town. That water may come from the public water supply, rivers, reservoirs, and underground water supplies that are used by homes, farms, and businesses, leading to concerns about water shortages. So let's now look at water pollution. Wastewater from data center cooling systems can contain salts, chemicals, metals, harmful bacteria, creating water quality concerns if it's not properly treated. So water treatment facilities may need to upgrade their equipment and processes, and costs could be passed on to your water bill. We've also started to learn about data centers contaminating household wells, as well as local creeks. Now, electricity demand is a big concern. Probably everybody's heard about this at this point, but by 2030, data centers could use up to 12% of all electricity in the US. The current plan to meet that demand is building new power plants, substations, and transmission lines. So we are not saying that grid investment is a bad thing, but that we need to look at how it's taking place and who is paying for it. For example, power utilities usually recover these types of costs through customer bills, meaning your household or business bill may increase as a result. We're also learning about Georgia Power potentially using eminent domain to obtain land for data center related infrastructure expansion. So now let's look at the energy sources used to actually power data centers. Most data centers are using harmful, non-renewable energy sources. And so what is that? We're talking about natural gas plants, coal plants, and on-site diesel and gas power generators. And what this means is that the air quality will get worse, not just where the data center is located, but everywhere. And so this is an important point because it means the not in my backyard approach doesn't really work when you're looking at it from the 10,000-foot view. Now, non-renewable energy sources release harmful gases and these very tiny particles that can travel deep into the lungs and enter the bloodstream, causing a wide range of health problems. They're even connected to premature death. And now we also know that they're connected to illnesses like dementia. Data centers also produce heat, raising nearby temperatures, which we refer to as heat islands. And therefore, you're looking also at potential increase in local air conditioning costs, as well as straining the power grid. Now, because data centers operate around the clock, nearby residents often hear continuous noise from fans, transformers, turbines, and cooling equipment. Persistent noise can actually not only disrupt your sleep, but increase stress, cause headaches and fatigue. And it also might affect your property values because who wants to live next to one of these data centers, right? So now E2I2 is not arguing that digital infrastructure should disappear. I think, that's pretty impossible at this point to expect. But our position is that there's a better way to build them that protects the environment and community health, limits public costs, and shares benefits fairly. So we are advocating that before approval, every project undergoes a comprehensive assessment of its projected water, energy, pollution, health, infrastructure, and financial impacts. Developers should disclose these results in accessible formats so you all, the communities, can meaningfully participate before decisions are made. Responsible data center development also requires updated zoning, renewable energy and alternative cooling systems, enforceable environmental standards, and what we call community benefits agreements, where the benefits are actually felt by the local communities. And finally, continuous environmental monitoring throughout construction and also operation. Finally, on one point, we want to be very, very clear. Data centers should not be located in communities that already carry heavy environmental burdens. So that was a very brief overview. As I said, I'd be very happy to go into specific details with any questions you all have. But what can you all listening and watching out there do? Well, now I want to turn it over to Dr. Femi Adesanya, to our founder of E2I2, to talk a little bit about how data centers get approved, because it's here at this point where data centers get approved, where communities need to engage before it's too late to act. So over to you, Dr. Femi.
Thanks, Lois. Data centers, I'm going to start. If you look at the regulative landscape, local decisions are made by the local governments, your city council, your commissioners. And so when data centers decide they need to relocate to a particular location, the air permit for one thing, the federal government has essentially put themselves outside the loop. So it relies on the state to get an air permit. But the air permit is conducted not in coordination with the local municipalities who have the authority for zoning. So the rest of the planning process actually goes to, next slide, please. It usually goes to the local city council or the commissioners, where rezoning is requested for. Now, if I'm going to put a data storage center, which we've had in Atlanta for such a long time, they occupy a block or two. It was okay at that time for the zoning department to rezone the land for commercial use. Then follow that is the beginning of the design of the project. The development then, after design, submit their development project or their project to the to the city council or the council or the commissioner's planning department. Now, that process essentially means the planning department, who's most likely are mostly civil engineers, are not really adequately trained to assess some of these permits that have been put forward. Once, let's assume the planning department agrees, they give them a permission, they give them a permit to do the construction, they can start the construction of the facility. But at this time, it's already too late because, by the time the plant or the facility is in full operation, the problems is already in place. And so as most of these problems, particularly the health issues that, Louise talked about, takes quite a while to develop. Next slide. Okay. For data transparency, it really requires an independent assessment to be completed by the plant owners to ensure that the impact on water, electricity, and air quality and noise traffic, public health, and quality of life is adequately analyzed. Now, this takes professionals. For most cases, the city council or the commissioners really do not have the technical expertise to analyze the proposed project on water, electricity, quality of life, and public health. The developer needs to come to the table with all this information before actually asking the city council or the commissioners to approve or propose the approval. Now, if you want to build a house, the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna tell the planning department how much water you're gonna take. The planning department then does a simulation to determine if they have the capacity. If they don't, they force you to put in the capacity to get water to your property. But we don't do that for these big data centers. Then the economic implication is also not considered, because when you have new roads, new power lines, new water infrastructure, upgrade of existing water infrastructure, and emergency services to support these facilities, the cost is typically passed on after the fact. In this case, in terms of Georgia, actually the state already overruled the city council and the commissioners, and will not allow any of these entities to actually increase or tax the facilities. We don't know how much tax rate the data center will generate, because typically that is under the NDA, non-disclosure agreement that is already signed before all this begins to, before the committee even know about what's going on. For safety and accountability, we need to put safeguards in place to limit air pollution, water use, heat. Who will monitor the environmental impacts after the data center is built? Typically, that role belongs to the state. The state DEQ is responsible for the air quality of the state. And they will be the one who will have to put in the monitors. And to me, it makes sense to ask the developers to put in the monitors and get a third-party entity such as E2I2 to conduct the actual monitoring of the air quality around the facility. So in general, the idea is that my proposal will really be that the state be the one who actually permit these facilities, instead of treat these facilities as a huge chemical plant, because that's what they are. Back to you, Luis.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Femi, and to the Sean Harris team. We wanted to put those questions on a slide just in case they're helpful for community members as they go to plan. So as Dr. Femi was saying, right, there's various points at which community members can participate and get their questions and concerns answered. And it really starts at the top with the zoning. But then, if we want to keep those slides on the screen, if people want to take a snapshot of them, the questions are really designed for community members to ask those questions at those types of meetings.
Yeah, and what we will do, Louise, is we will make sure that when this episode is done, we'll play it again back on all of our social media channels, even on YouTube, so that people can actually have it, and it'll also be posted. But and thanks, team, for putting those questions back up there. But one of the things I wanted to say as we continue to move forward is, first, I want to thank all the viewers that are actually watching us right now live on I think it's a Wednesday afternoon, or I think it's Wednesday. And I just want to say thank you to that. Like I said in the very beginning, please like and share. Tell people that we're actually having this conversation. But I also want to encourage everybody out there, don't be shy. Ask us a question, and make sure that our guests get an opportunity to answer your question. the reason why we're doing this is our public square. We want to make sure that just everyday people in the community that maybe can't make it to the meetings that they have on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 10 o'clock in the morning, we want to make sure that just everyday people can actually ask people the expert questions. But on top of that, you can gather some information that when you go to the meeting on Tuesdays or Wednesdays or Thursdays, whenever it's going to be, that now you got some ammunition to actually ask a very intelligent question. And then on the other side of that, if you support the three of us that are candidates that are trying to get to Congress so that we can put some guardrails on this thing, please, you see the QR code there in the left, at least this is the left where I'm looking at it. Please scan that and donate to the three of our campaigns and just help us as we try to move forward. So with that, I'm glad to see, I think we just got our very first question in. Can everybody see the question?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Let me just look at it. Do one of our guests want to answer? Or do one of our candidates want to answer the question?
I'll give it a shot.
Go ahead, sir.
Have you been to Sam's Club lately? When you walk out after paying, and they have this huge machine that sits there, and essentially it scans your ticket to make sure you pay for every single component in your cart. The information required to do that is being processed in the data center. The data center allows them to not hire people. Typically, in the old days, you have 2 or 3, staff at the exit to make sure you don't scan your purchases to make sure you pay for everything. Now they don't do it. That real-time information that they're getting by scanning everything.
And I think Dr. Femi just froze there, but he's right. I think a lot of people don't realize that data centers date back decades. We've had data centers for a very long time, and it's not just for AI and cloud servers, but all of your banking or any of your data needs go through data centers. Sorry, I jumped in, Femi, because you froze on our end. But I was just saying that data centers go back decades. What has happened in the last few years is that AI came on the scene. Mm-hmm. And AI and the speed with which it's been disseminated and implemented requires much more data centers, bigger data centers, and the developers are rushing to build them in a way that's not sustainable.
The entire time I was in the military, data centers were always on the base. Or on the post, depending on which branch of service you were in. And that was just normal. What's different now is those data centers that was inside of the wire are now out in our rural communities and throughout our cities, but specifically in our rural communities. And we just got another question, but before we go to that question, we'll just leave it on the screen, please, team. But I want to give Chris an opportunity to ask a question because I think, Chris, you got a question for our guest. But we will come back to this question. Just leave that question on the screen, please.
Yeah, Dr. Femi, I heard you talk about a little bit of the jurisdictions that are touching these data centers, and it sounded like the one that you just went over was kind of the local, like the city and the county. But you have 3 federal candidates right here, and then there's also a state that's going to be involved. Can you kind of explain the differences of what each jurisdiction is going to, how they can help put guardrails on data centers?
Yes, I would love to do that. First, the federal government is responsible for all air quality issues because Congress has authorized EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, to be the lead agency to protect the air quality of the United States. They set the standards. So when a facility is planning to build a facility that is going to put pollutants into the atmosphere, they have to get permit from EPA. In this particular case, we're talking about point source air quality permit. Now, EPA, of course, has delegated the states to represent them. So most states are delegated states. In other words, in Georgia, the Department of Environmental Quality represents EPA and so becomes the regulator for air quality on behalf of EPA. So that's the way the rules are. Now, I will tell you right now, I hope you guys are in Congress at the moment because there is a new proposal from one of the current congressmen to essentially eliminate community input on what they call the new source review. And now that is what they actually, EPA is trying to use to eliminate or prevent data centers from having to do air quality permit.
Well, that's one of my concerns that I have going on is, I'm afraid they're going to do to the EPA like they did to the Department of Education. They're just going to gut it and make it worthless so they can get around all the regulations and don't have to, comply with any regulations so they can keep the profits up.
So the local governments, the cities and the counties really do not have air quality authority. They have the zoning authority because all the power for land use is vested in the local government, not in the state government. The state might usurp some of those power at some time, depending on what's going on. But for most part, the local government has the authority. But imagine a hyperscale data center. That is like a chemical complex. They do not belong under the preview of your local government. They need to be squarely in the hands of the DEQ, or the state environmental regulators.
Okay. Well, thank you, Chris, for that question. I see the team has just put the question back up from Robert. I tell you what, Louise, do you want to address this one, or do you want one of us to address it?
This is outside our area of expertise at E2I2. We're very much focused on the environmental and health impacts of facilities. And so this is more of a legal issue. If anybody else has some thoughts on this, please chime in.
I think I know a lawyer. I'm not sure.
This is definitely one of my biggest concerns is when I started hearing that they were doing these NDAs. To me, it sounds like it's a way of, it's a violation of oath for the elected officials to sign these. I think they owe a duty and a responsibility to their constituents to be transparent, and this is not a way of being transparent. I can't believe there hasn't been some lawsuits coming through the pipe already, and I'm sure that there are, because I just don't understand how they can get around informing the constituents. And we're seeing it already where boards of commissions are just not even bringing it to the table for constituents to even be heard on. They're just doing it, and forcing it through. So I can't believe this is actually even a thing. But with the way things are going in this current administration, damn the Constitution and damn everything else, right? So
yeah, Chris, I tell you from what I've been hearing, I'm no lawyer, but from what I've been hearing is people being given these NDAs, and it's on a piece of paper, but the piece of paper is not legal. But they just making people believe that they can't say anything. So I think as this thing play out, a lot of things going to end up in court. And that's why I've said over and over and over, that's why we need a pause, because I don't believe the people at the lowest level, we all super smart, we all trying to do the right thing. But if you working with a corporate America, they got lawyers on top of lawyers. And the next thing you know, you got county commissioners and city commissioners scared to make a decision one way or the other because somebody legal has told them if you do something wrong, you could be held accountable. But I do want to just move on, because first I want to say, then let all of my guests that's on here with us tonight know that right now, when I look at the screen, 714 people are actually watching us live. So I want to say thank you to my audience that's with us, but also thank you to everybody out there for taking the time. We only been on now for about 30 minutes. And I see we got more and more questions coming in. So before we do this particular question here, I want to give my colleague, Mrs. Keller, the opportunity to ask a question. Then we'll come back to the questions on the screen.
Hey,
Please.
thanks, Sean. So this is for Dr. Palmer. So why is baseline environmental and community data so important before a data center is approved?
Yeah, and thank you for that question. And I think it actually speaks a little bit to the question that popped up on the screen as well, because you can't measure an impact of any industrial facility without knowing where you started, right? You've got to get that baseline data, that baseline information. What was the community like before this new facility came in? And so what we talk about in terms of baseline data, it's your air quality, it's your water quality, it's your traffic, it's your noise, it's your public health, everything that is in place in your community before it gets started. Because unless you have that, you're not going to be able to prove what the impacts of a new facility is on your community. And if you can't prove what the impacts are, it's very, very hard to advocate for change or to put in guardrails and protections, because they can quite simply say, well, we'll prove it. How can you prove that the air quality's got worse? How can you prove that, your water pressure is worse than it was before? And so that baseline data is foundation for accountability. Accountability not only to the developers, but to the agencies that are supposed to be protecting the public in all respects. And there's a few ways, this is what we do. That's what E2I2 was founded to do, is to help communities collect and access data, not only to tell their baseline story, but then to continue to monitor over time those impacts. And there's various different ways that you can do that as a community, either alone or in partnership with nonprofits like E2I2.
And you know what you just said, I'll be telling some of the folks, because so many of them are on well water. Mm-hmm. And I have to tell them, make sure you get a well water study, because you got to know what your start is. And the second thing, which is, when we talked about, public health, everybody needs to go get like a full exam just for themselves to know that they have a baseline as to how healthy they are. And I'm concerned because so many people have lost their health care. But they've got to do that in order to prove that a data center caused, their asthma, pulmonary issues, COPD, whatever it is. So yeah, we're putting a lot of onus on the people who could possibly be affected by these data centers.
Yeah, and unfortunately so, we don't think it should be that way. We think there's a duty of our public institutions to collect that data and put in safeguards. But very, very often the communities we work with, it does fall to the community to document the harm taking place in their communities, because we work across a range of different industries, not just data centers. And, very simple, just to leave the viewers and the listeners with a very simple way that you can do this. You can keep your own diary, literally recording, what do you see? What do you smell? What are you experiencing? And smell is an important one, because a lot of communities living near toxic industry will literally smell the chemicals and the pollution coming out of that. And it's at different times of the day. So what is it like in the morning? What is it like at noon? What is it like at night? And for data centers, what is it like overnight when everything else is quieting down and you're hearing that hum? So it's, what do you see? What do you smell? What do you hear? How do you feel? And if there's enough people collecting that kind of data, then you really start to tell a powerful story.
Dr. Palmer, I thank you for talking about the health issues, because that is one of the main concerns of my constituents when I'm out at town halls is the health issues. And I know that Sean's dealing with some of the same things that I've been dealing with, especially like in Gordon, where they already have forever chemicals in the water. And Sean, I just learned that there is a thing called farm chemicals. Gordon County is having an overcrowding of chickens. So you add those issues, and then you add data center issues. Now we've got a hidden cost that's going to be, affect the healthcare system that's already on code. You know, it's already coding. So thank you for bringing that up and being able to talk about that, Dr. Palmer.
Yeah, it's so powerful what we're doing tonight. I know everybody on the screen knows about my district, but we are known, unfortunately, from Dalton all the way through Rome and then all the way down to the Gulf is PFAS, forever chemicals. And when I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about how can I help the community on the PFAS issue. But then on top of that, you layer on top of that with everything else that's going on in the environment and the EPA basically being shut down and playing games with them. But then you put on top of that data centers are basically being put in pretty much every last one of our counties. And we don't really know what we don't know at this point. Here in the 14th where I'm at, that's why I'm asking for that pause, because we don't need to add to a problem that we already have. And so that's why I think it's so powerful for us to have these type conversations where we're not trying to point the fingers at anybody. We're just trying to get the information out to the people, because I know the local people are the ones that are going to be fighting for, to put these data centers on a pause. But on top of that, it will be the voices of the local people that people actually going to listen to. It won't be somebody flying in here from New York or California. It'll be 100% Mrs. Smith from down the road came to town and she said, we need to stop this and kind of go from there. I think we have some more questions that were coming in. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes. So I think part of, yes, maybe the part of the problem in answering some of these questions comes back to data. And quite frankly, we don't know enough right now, partly because the data is not being collected. And we're in this very reactive moment where the data centers are being built and then we're finding out what the impacts are. And that's what we're trying to flip at E2I2. We want to flip it to start being proactive, starting with that data collection. But what I understand, my understanding is that underground aquifers are a source of water for the cooling systems. I don't know the extent to which it's happening. I couldn't even tell you where, but I do know that water is in places being extracted from underground aquifers. Dr. Femi, I don't know if you have more to add to that.
I think the only thing I will add is the permit application for the zoning or for building construction should have that information. But the NTA might be the cloud that they're using not to provide that information, but that all that data should be in the planning document that is submitted for the local permit. Where your water is coming from, how much of it, where your power is coming from, how much of it. All that should be in that document.
Well, you know, I agree with you. A lot of things should be in the paperwork, but from what I've seen thus far, when I go to the different meetings, it seems like some of these data centers didn't even go through the process of putting it out to the public. It was worked through zoning, so that now people are being surprised of, wait a minute, what are they building behind my house? I mean, it's got to that far that somebody's actually putting infrastructure out in an open field or some woods or whatever that used to be there, and you think maybe they're building a Publix. No, they're not. They building a data center. So do we have any more questions from the audience? Well, okay. The reason why I keep asking that question, because I want to make sure that the audience gets a chance to participate with us, because that's what this whole thing was supposed to be about. Right now, roughly about 900 people are actually watching. So I say again, please like and share, tell your friends. If you like what the three candidates are doing for you, please hit that QR code and send us $1 or $2 if you can. We know the economy's not where it needs to be, but we need your help to win these elections in November and take this charge to DC, and at the same time work with our brothers and sisters down here at the state that gets you some guidelines or guide rails. But on top of that, I think, does everybody see the question there? Does anybody want to address it?
I do have a comment about it. And I also just want to quickly go back to what you were saying about rezoning, Sean, because Dr. Femi has a really good point on this, that these data centers are escaping the regulatory oversight of in other types of industrial facilities because they're being approved through changes in land use through rezoning. That's right, correct, Femi?
Yes.
I don't know if you have anything more to add to that, like why they're escaping, even though they're going to be big emitters, some of them, how they're escaping that regulatory oversight.
Well, because, a typical chemical, if Dow Chemical wants to build a facility in a neighborhood, whom do they go to? DEQ, EPA. They don't go to the local council. So why are these data centers going to the local council? They need to be going to the state, because the state is the one who has the know-how, the technical people who can effectively analyze what these people are putting forward. It's not at your local council. It's not at your local city. No. So that's really what the issue is. We need to elevate, maybe when you guys get to Congress, first rule is data centers needs to go to the state for permit, not to the local government.
And forgive me, sir, but when you say go to the state, what particular office at the state level should these organizations be going to get these permits?
DEQ, the Department of Environmental Quality.
Okay, DEQ.
So I'm wondering, I know that they just passed the 21st Century Road to Housing Act. That's the one where Trump refused to sign it, and they just allowed it to pass. In that bill, which I would have supported because it was directed at an actual issue that we have, which is a housing shortage. But part of that bill is also making it easier to cut through the red tape for rezoning. Is this something that some of the builders for data centers are going to be able to take advantage of, just like the...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can go back to that question that popped up, unless anyone else has.
Can you put it? Yeah, put it back up, please.
So we do a little bit on the economic side of things, but we're mostly focused on environmental and health impacts. And I really would love to know from our local commissioners, from our local council members, how much local tax is actually being generated, because in the state of Georgia, we're losing $2.5 billion this year to tax breaks to data centers. And that's sales taxes, both at the state level and at the local level. So I don't even know how much local tax we're generating. And so it's hard to answer that question, but certainly residential electricity bills have gone up 6 times over the last couple of years in Georgia. And we've got no promise from the Georgia Power that they're going to stop increasing. Yes, they put a freeze on the base rate, but that doesn't mean that the variable part of the bill won't continue to rise. And so I don't know if it's a fair trade-off because we don't have the data on how much income these data centers are bringing to the local economy. And that's definitely a question to ask at these council and commissioner meetings.
Excellent. Excellent. Team, is there any more questions from the audience? And as you're scanning through all of them, again, I just want to say thank you to everybody that's out there watching us, because right now we're up to almost 900 people that are actually watching us. So I just want to say thank you, because as we thought through what we was trying to do with this rules of engagement was become a public square where just everyday people could log in, gather some information, but at the same time ask questions directly to the experts. And we got 2 outstanding experts on here with us tonight. And I see another question just popped up there. I'll give you a little time to look at it, and whoever wants to answer it, please go forward.
Oh yes, there is lots of. You pay in your property tax value going down, because as this huge data center begins to operate, the noise, the traffic, they tend to lower the value of your property. It's not like putting a multi-use park. behind you. And then your water is going to go up sooner or later. Your power rate is going to go up sooner or later. So on the long term, yes, you are substantially giving up property taxes or income to the local government, replacing that with the increased burden on the homeowners, the residents living near and around these facilities.
And there's also the hidden cost of like healthcare when people start getting sick,
Yeah, I just saw Sam's question. I had read it over on the other side, so I'm glad the team put it up there. Would either one, Louise, either one of y'all want to address it?
Yeah, I can address it. I mentioned it briefly in my opening remarks. And so, Sam, what's happening is we don't have the infrastructure. So on the power side, we don't have the energy infrastructure to power this many data centers. And so we're rapidly increasing transmission lines, power stations, substations. We're creating new natural gas pipelines to bring enough natural gas instead of coal. But we are also now have pulled back on our commitment to sunset coal power plants in the state of Georgia. What this means is somebody has to pay for this infrastructure build out, and it has typically been passed on to the customer. It's been passed on to household power bills. It's been passed on to business power bills and farm power bills. And it's always been that way. Plant Vogtle is another example in Georgia. The big nuclear power plant, when Plant Vogtle was being constructed, Georgia Power passed some of the costs onto us, the ratepayer. Now, on the water side, your water bill, very similar. So I mentioned that what is happening, yes, the data centers use a lot of water, but they're discharging dirty water. That dirty water needs to be cleaned. The chemicals, the salts, and the bacteria that we are now learning, again, this is all emerging information. What we're learning is that our current water utility treatment facilities may not be fully equipped to treat that water. And so they need to be upgraded. Millions of dollars of upgrades potentially to water treatment facilities. And so who's going to pay for that? Again, it's very likely the same model that we see with the power companies. It will be passed on to your water, the customer, the water bill.
Excellent. As for just a little second here, I just wanted, before we answer another question, I want to say to everybody again, thank you, because right now more than 900 people are watching us. But I want to ask the people that are watching us, if you could, here in the next 5-10 minutes, whatever it is, if you could at least just put in the chat, you're in Georgia, in whatever city, or you in New York, in wherever place, just so we have some kind of idea when the show is over, where are all these people watching us from? I want to make sure that we're talking to the world, but I really want to make sure that we're talking to North Georgia, the area that we represent, because all of us live, each one of our districts are pretty much rural. That means we got farmers. That means we got all kind of issues that deal with agriculture. So I want to make sure that I'm glad to have everybody on here, but I want to make sure that when we finish this up, we can go back and do some analysis and say, hey, how do we make sure that those people that are in those rural areas or the people that are in the urban areas or wherever actually know about our next episode so that we can continue to pass information on to them. So with that, again, I just want to say thank you. My team will be looking in the notes, so please take the time, drop that. Hey, I'm Sean. I live here in Georgia, and that'll be perfect. Whatever. Just like somebody from Dallas, Georgia, just did for me. Thank you up there in Peachtree City. Thank you. That just helps us better understand where people actually listen. And wait a minute, somebody from a small town. Look at there. You can't beat it. Thank you. All right. With that, do we have any more questions, Shelly, from the audience?
Well, I can ask a question. Is anybody aware that the Department of Energy just gave one of the largest loans in history to Georgia Power? I believe it's 26.5 million to help with that infrastructure that Dr. Palmer was talking about.
I had not heard that.
No.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very similar to the Vogel. It's going to be something that the federal, Congress is supposed to be overseeing that. But like, if anybody knows anything about Vogel, it ran over budget severely, and there's a lot of concern about this new package that they've put together to increase. It's supposed to address at least one more power plant. I know it's going to bring in some pipelines. It's going to bring in some power lines and all of this thing, which is odd to me because it's to supplement an industry. And I'm not sure of any other industry that we would supplement like that. We should do healthcare like that. We should do educations like that, you know?
I wanted to throw in what also Dr. Palmer had said is my current congressman, before I replace him, he brought in money, about $4.9 million for a water treatment facility, which also will go into the Chattahoochee. His whole thing was, I brought it for the people because that community is growing. And we all know that's not the reason he bought it. It's because that hyperscale project sale needs that water treatment facility in order to have enough water. And it was in the plan. If you go pull their plan, you'll see that they need water from the Chattahoochee. And this is what he's using taxpayers' money for this data center, but putting it under the umbrella that I'm doing it for the people.
Yeah, there's all kind of crazy things happening right now. But I actually have somebody just sent me a question on my phone. So let me just look down here and look over it, and I'll put it out to the group. Many groups are raising concerns about data centers because of their energy, the water demands, noise, other impacts. To my guess, what is your organization brings to the conversation that's different?
So right now, what we see is a very reactive situation. I mentioned it before, these data centers are popping up, and naturally we're, the public and everyone's like, wait, what's going on? How do we stop this? But by the time these facilities are breaking ground, it's unfortunately almost too late. And so we're trying to do two things at E2I2. We have a framework, how to do this better, more sensibly. And I agree with you, Sean, we need time to pause on these projects while we get together with a coalition to fully design a better way of doing this that not only benefits the community, but it addresses things like the harmful emissions. There are more sustainable ways to build data centers. We don't have to use dirty, non-renewable energy sources. Let's bring, our smart minds at Georgia Tech into the conversation. The way that it's been doing now is fast and dirty because it's cheaper. But for this to be sustainable, for us not to be left with, shells, carcasses of these big data centers decades from now, we really need to do a pause and look at how to do this more sustainably in a way that doesn't impact communities. And for us, that starts with the data. We are an organization that is data driven. We need to collect the data on what these facilities are doing, how they're impacting communities, how they're impacting public health, the environment. But then that data also shows us how to move forward in a way that does less harm. Dr. Femi, is there anything that you would like to add about how we contribute to this field?
Yes, for the last 30 plus years, our fundamental approach is collect data on behalf of the community. Maura, you were talking about the background data. That's what we do. We collect background data for communities because that is the baseline. You need to know what you are exposed to today before you can superimpose what additional exposures, air pollutants, health issues you're going to have in the future as a result of these facilities operating in your community. So we do that. we do community monitoring. When we have the resources, we would like, to put monitors all over the place to monitor the air quality in and around this community that's around these centers, because that allows us to get baseline information so that the community, we don't do advocacy. We educate the community with all this information, and we teach them on how to advocate and for themselves. And that's what we need to do. If we take a pause, we need to educate the people like we're doing now. We're educating, because the time to get educated is not when that plant is getting ready to be built. You need to be educated way before that plant show up, because then you are more powerful. You have more weapons to fight and to defend your community.
I have a dream. My dream is to build on Aaron Brockovich's map where all the data centers are, so that you can click on a data center and you can see what its emissions are. What is it emitting into the air, into the water? How is it impacting the local community? As far as I'm aware, that doesn't exist. And that's the kind of work that we do at E2I2. We build these maps that are community accessible, where community members can click on a local facility and truly understand the potential impacts coming their way. And there is a EPA website that does that with these really, really big facilities. But as we talked about, data centers are falling under the radar. And so they're not held accountable in the same way.
Well, it's funny you bring up Aaron's name. I got an opportunity to meet her when she came to Rome a few months ago. And that was just awesome. And, when I say this is going to just make my team behind the curtain, they're just going to crash and have a heart attack. But it would be so cool if we could reach out to her and get her on this particular one of these episodes to talk about it, because that would just help our community so much. So we're gonna work behind the scenes to try to get her to come and be on one of the shows with us. I can't promise we're gonna do it, but one of the things I learned in the military, you got to think big. And what we're going to do, because the conversation is going so well, I know we just went over 1 hour, but I want to be able to let us hang around for 10 more minutes for two reasons. One, I want to make sure that everybody out there got their question that they were saying, if I could just ask somebody, this your opportunity. Ask the question. And then on top of that, we're sitting at right now, when I look at the screen, 972 people are actually watching us live. I want us to get over 1,000 people watching us, liking it, sharing it, so that this information gets out. And then even when we turn it back over to YouTube and all of those channels and everything, please share it there so that this information can get out to everybody and they can use it. And then also up there in your top left corner, please take the time to go to that QR code. And if you can give to our campaigns, whatever you give, we're going to split between the 3 campaigns and make sure that everybody can actually buy some more signs, go knock on some more doors and try to earn some votes. But with that, I see right here, somebody has already asked a question.
I'm gonna see if Dr. Femi has any answers to this one. What are some best practice regulations?
The biggest concern, there are so many laws that govern data centers. Altogether, I believe the last time I read, it's about 39 different regulations from Congress. And from EPA to the Department of Energy to the Department of National Security agencies. To the Railroad Transportation Administration. That there is a need to consolidate all of these regulations under one umbrella, to ensure that nothing falls out or nothing get missed, or there is no conflict between the agencies fighting each other, because they all have different values and different missions and visions. And I think if you consolidate all this under one umbrella, you will get more benefit. I think the community will get more benefit.
Well, thank you. Team, let's take one more question, and then I'm going to allow each one of the candidates to kind of do a closeout, and then we will go back to our guests and let them tell us how we can better support their organization. But I see we have another question that just popped up.
My guess is because it's too expensive, Femi.
That is correct. It's too expensive. But the other way to spin that question, though, is why not each data center, particularly the huge ones, the hyperscale ones, bring to the table everything they need. Build their own power plant on site, build their own water treatment plant on site, so that they don't impose on the local utilities.
Awesome. That is the first time I've actually heard that proposal. I think that's a good little golden nugget that when people are standing up doing their speeches at the city council meeting or the county commissioners meeting, that's a nice little golden nugget to put out there, saying have them build their own stuff and be self-contained inside of their perimeter. But still, we get into the situation, who would like to have a data center built behind their house? I think that the answer is that is not me. And then on the other piece of conversation is, because we all live in a rural community, is the question I have with our farmers, or the conversation I have with farmers, is this: is right now, if we're in the middle of a drought, if you live in the city, they will tell you, I'm sorry, you can't water your grass anymore. And the people in the city say, okay, no problem. If you do, you get a fine or something. I don't live in the city, so I don't know. But if you live on a farm like me and you need to run irrigation or do whatever you need to do, nobody ever comes out here and tell you to turn your irrigation system off. We don't live in New Mexico, Arizona, and California. They don't regulate the water like that. What concerns me is if we get in the middle of the drought and now we have all the data centers, is the water primary goes to the data center, or does the water still go primary to the farmer and keeping our cows, chickens, and row crops alive so we continue to feed the country? I don't know the answer to that, but that is the conversation that I have with farmers out here in the 14th, is as we bring on these data centers, who's going to make the decision on who controls the water out there? So is it any one last question before we go around to my fellow candidates? Do you have another one, team?
I just want to jump in with one caveat about putting
Yes,
power plants on site with facilities. Before the data centers go ahead and run with that, let's make sure they're using non-renewable energy, because that's there's an unintended impacts always to some of these things. And so we don't want gas generated turbines, which some of them are trying to do, like AI in Memphis is the big one most people know about. So let's make sure that they're renewable, clean energy sources. But I think that's definitely a good idea.
I would like to piggyback on that. If it's renewable, say for example, is corn. Well, your farmers in your rural areas can grow more corn and sell it to them, and they get more money. So everybody benefits. If you use renewable energy sources like sugarcane, corn, sunflower seeds or sunflower plant, all those are renewable energy. And guess what? It also eliminates hazardous air pollutants.
Awesome. Well, now it's 8:07. I see this is going to be our last question. It's a pretty long one. I'll let it sit there. And after we answer this particular question right here, then we'll move into our candidates and they can say their closing out remarks, and then we'll come back to our guests. So does either one of our guests want to address this? It looks like it's an AI question.
I let Louise take care of that. She's been dealing with thinking about AI lately.
Yeah, I mean, we need regulation, plain and simple. We have nothing right now. We talk about data centers being the symptom of a cause, and that cause is AI. AI is what is driving this build out of data centers. There are no safeguards, no guardrails about how AI is being built, how it's being used. And it's of deep concern to us at E2I2 because the data that we receive through these AI tools is only as good as the information they have access to. And we are currently in a world where data is disappearing from publicly available websites, from federal websites, and we have deep concerns around the equitable access to truthful information unless there are some significant regulations put in place to prevent that from happening.
I totally agree, Dr. Palmer. And I want watermarks on these AI videos because I've been watching Mitch McConnell videos for the past 2 weeks, and they all look real to me. So,
yeah. You know, well, let me just, I don't want to get onto that. So let me just stay focused on this particular episode right here that we're doing. And is this another question, team?
To verify my identity.
Yep, I guess.
Dang.
I guess it's like a follow-on question.
Okay. Yeah, it's integrated in everything we do right now. You know, it's like you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but we can't. This is an unsustainable situation that we're in, both on the data center front and the AI front, and so we're behind the 8 ball, and I think we need all of our representatives and future representatives to really do something about this.
Well, I first I want to say thank you to everybody that joined our podcast. I guess that's what we called it tonight. But I also want to take time out and say thank you. I got to look up here close because these lights are in my eyes. I think it says we got 1,012 people that are actually watching us right now. So I want to say thank you. I want to give y'all guys, the viewers, a hand clap to take some time out of the afternoon to listen to us, to support us. I also want to just point back out to you, still like and share, tell people about it. When we log off, do me a couple favors, and it goes live out there, it goes to YouTube. Share it everywhere, and then also ask people if you could to go to that QR code and donate to our campaign so that we can go out here and continue to fight for you. With that being said, as we're closing out, and just for the audience to know, as we're closing out, Chris is going to do some closing remarks. My sister Keller is going to have some closing remarks. I may say something tonight because I've been talking all night. But ultimately, our guests are going to really close us out. But as we're closing out, I think the coolest thing to be out there is as we're closing out, each one of those 1,015 people that are online right now, tell us, you know, if you want to say thank you, you want to say we're doing the right thing, you want to say we got to get better, or if you just want to say, hey, this is me, I'm from so-and-so, and I look forward to your next episode. Let's flood the markets. But the team right now, Chris, this is your time to close us out.
Thank you, Sean. And thank you, Maura, for having me. Dr. Feeney and Dr. Palmer, it was an honor. We appreciate you coming on here with us and sharing your expertise. That's how we learn. And I really appreciate it. Guys, one of the things that you can do to help Maura, Sean, and myself is we need volunteers for canvassing. I'm sure you can go to each one of our websites to sign up and volunteer. Obviously, here's some inside baseball. We have people watching us, and they're keeping an eye on us, but they need to see that you guys are supporting us. So if you can, whatever little amount of money that you can give, it'll go to the higher ups so that we are making a difference in our districts and that we are on the verge of flipping it. Just a couple of plugs for me, and I'll let it go. You can always go to my website, electharden.com, to see what we got going on, and you can sign up to volunteer. My next town hall is going to be August 8th at Hickory Flat Library in Cherokee County. And tomorrow night, it looks like I'm crashing Sheriff Craig Owens' Shrimp Bowl. over at the Jim Miller Park. So that should be fun. So come on out to that, and we'll eat some shrimp.
All right. Keller, what do you want to tell us?
All right. 100% what Chris said. You know, the three of us, I mean, this is what grassroots campaign looks like. We are not supported by the Georgia party. We're not supported by the national party. This is all what we do because we believe in what we're doing. And it's to serve the people, because we have all been a public servant and we're still continuing to do that. You know, we really truly care about the people. You know, Sean cares about, you know, the farmers that have been ignored for too long, you know, and then, you know, Chris, I mean, we get it. But we do need the support. Monies, if you send them to the parties, do not come to us. So we need you to directly to contribute to us. You know, we're not a partisan group. We care about, again, like I say, the people of our district. These are nonpartisan issues. We don't care what side of the aisle you're on. We just want to do right by everybody. Because guess what? We actually live here. And then we have to come back here and we have to look at you in the eyes because you're our neighbor. And so it doesn't do me a good when my whole family lives here. You know, we got to be good by our word. We got to be a good neighbor and good steward. So to get more information about me, you can go to maurakeller.com and you can see all my social media. Like Chris, go into certain places. You can go check my event calendar and you'll know where I'm at. And I hope to see you around. Thanks so much, Sean, for having us.
Thank you. You know, I just love the way that we're actually doing it. It's one thing to go and knock on people's doors, and we do that all the time. But another thing to try to create a platform that the masses can see and ask intelligent questions and get information. I think that's just awesome. One of the things I just want to kind of put out there for myself and most people, because this is riding on my platform, I imagine most people know who I am. They know I'm running for Congress. They know I'm a CD14. They know I'm the guy who ran against Marjorie Taylor Greene. They know I'm the guy who ran against Clay. They know I'm the guy who beat Clay and 16, 17 other Republicans and all of those things. But guess what? As of right now, as of today, we are 104 days away from the election, period. And that simply means that every last one of us got to get up, go to work, make sure that people are registered, make sure all kind of things happen, because no matter where you watching us from, I don't care if you watch Fox News, CNN, or NBC, whoever you watch, every last one of them would tell you that the president of the United States came right here to Cobb County, which is a suburb of Atlanta, today. That means the great state of Georgia is going to definitely have a lot of pressure on us. And we need to make sure that you have a plan of not only register to vote, but you have a plan that says, I'm going to go vote and I'm going to go vote early. And even if somebody's even standing out there looking at you crazy, you're going to have the courage to walk on in there and vote, because this vote is not only about you, it's about your kids and grandkids. And that's something I just said last night at my town hall up in Murray County. So shout out to Murray County. And one other thing, if I can get my phone to turn back on, my staff just sent me a thing that says I'm going to be in Floyd County on August 6th with a local candidate, but we doing a data center event live, in person. So more information will come out on that. And we welcome you to come and support us with that. But I'll be doing that one live with some of the local candidates there in Rome, Georgia on April 6th. So, and if I can get over this cold, boy, I can do a lot of things. But I imagine cough drops are making a lot of money off me because I'm eating them like I don't know what. But with that being said, the best part of the night, Doctor, did you say you used to work at Hampton University?
Yeah, I taught there for 15 years.
15 years. Well, I want to say thank you, because without Hampton, we never would have had Tuskegee. That's where I went to school, was Tuskegee. So thank you. With that, now we're going to turn it over to our guests to tell people, hey, how can they support you?
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, everybody, for having us this evening. Shelley and team, if you could put our last slide up on the screen, if that's possible. There we go. So like Sean says, please follow, like, and share. These are our, basically across all the platforms, our handle is at E2I2ORG. E2I2ORG. You can see it on the screen if you want to take a snapshot. You know, we're a nonprofit. We've been hit really hard by funding cuts this year. I know that you're probably sick of everybody asking for money, but maybe, you know, if our work speaks to you, the QR code on the screen on our slide will take you to our donation page. But maybe you know somebody who works in this field, who has connections, maybe with a funder, who maybe can help us build the map that I talked about, the map of data center impacts that would be community friendly, user friendly, so everybody can get the information that they need about the data centers and other facilities impacting their lives. But, you know, to everybody out there, I just say stay engaged. Communities have the greatest opportunity to influence these projects before the major decisions are made. You really do have the power. And anything we can do to support you and your communities, please reach out. All of our contact information is on our website. Dr. Femi, any closing remarks from you?
No, I'm just saying we are staying true to our mission and vision, and that is to help communities gather data, provide their data to the communities, educate them on how to use those data, and let them go help themselves. But when I started, EPA used to give me money, to go help the community. So it didn't cost the community to do that work. But today, all that money is dried up. So, we will definitely, your support will be helpful in keeping the mission and the vision of E2I2 alive.
All right. Well, hey, guys, I want to say thank you to our guests. I want to say thanks to my colleagues. Chris, man, that our districts must touch each other because Craig, I shouldn't call him Craig, Sheriff Owens must going to be having a great cookout or whatever we have, because I'm at the same place tomorrow.
Hey, let's do it, man. Let's do it.
So everybody, thank you. And as we close out, I'm gonna look up here one more time. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, and we're about to close this thing out, is 1,051 people are actually watching us live. And that's on a Wednesday night. And so I just want to say thank you. We'll be coming back with another episode, our third one, talking about the rules of engagement when it comes to data centers. And hopefully this information will help you when you actually go to your county commissioners meeting or to your city council meeting, and you having those discussions, you got some information to ask some additional questions. And please support our two guests that were on, and make sure that they can continue to do the great work they're doing, because I will tell you, as we continue to move down this road with data centers and everything else, it's going to be organizations like theirs is going to help us navigate the thing. And then come November, the three of us are going to DC. We're going to be in Congress. And I promise you that when we get there, you're going to be able to hold us accountable, because we're going to roll our sleeves up and write up some policies that will actually help put some guide rails out there for the federal, but at the same time to come back down here to the state. And we're going to continue to work with the state. So with that, the time now, I think, is about 8:21. We went a little over, but I think it was just awesome to have this conversation. With that, team, close us out.